Hi, welcome to Moyna Bass Fishers. I'm Jim Moyna, and we're going to talk about the 2023 Tacklewarehouse Invitational on Lake Eufaula in Oklahoma. Today was the final day of competition. I finished 48th place. I entered the day in 50th place, moved up 2 spots with two measly little fish that moved me up 2 spots. They weighed 3 pounds, 13 ounces total. It was a tougher day. Uh, Overall, the whole field kind of struggled a lot more today than the prior 2 days. However, the winner caught the biggest bag of the tournament, Kelly Jordan. Congratulations, Kelly, on the victory. But overall, it was a little bit tougher. And why was it tougher? Well, two things. A lot of guys are fishing the same water. It's a huge lake. There's entire basins of this lake that are practically being ignored by the field of anglers, and there's two particular areas that are getting a lot of fishing pressure. And I don't know if there's just because there are more fish in these areas, or if it's just people think there are more fish in these areas. But it has some more. These two areas have some more of the clear water. It's the clearest water in the lake in these two areas, and I don't know. It kind of drew me in there. But I had none of my stuff was original, and none of it I had to myself. I was rotating on everything I was fishing. I was rotating on with other people, just constantly the first 2 days. So that's one reason why. Because these areas can only hold up for so long before the fish transition into some other patterns, and the places dry up where everybody's fishing. There's always that. And then, of course, there's just the removal of the fish. And now when I say removal from those areas, the fish are weighed in and released back into the lake, but that's at a totally different location. So for those two reasons, the fishing pressure, and then the second reason is the weather. We had a big front come through. We had that warm, balmy weather. Then the front came through during the second day of the tournament, and it got cold last night. And I think the fish just got a little tighter with what they're doing. Unless I really don't know. I really felt like a moving bait should have worked today, and I tried to get it going because what I was catching most of my fish was on Nico rig worms and Nico of some different varieties, whether it be a Senko or a ringworm or some other straight tail worm, but the Tricky D. It's just, the moving bait thing would have, because when you got wind, and if you can get a moving bait bite working and you got wind, you can cover a lot more water and you can pile up the fish. Over the course of the whole day, you can just pile up the fish quicker and bigger. I think maybe you get a few bigger ones too. So, and by the way, the reason why we got this funky lighting, see? Whoa. Yeah, it's because I am sitting in a parking lot with no power right now. I'm just gonna chill here for the night and head back. I've drove probably, I don't know, 5 hours. As soon as the tournament was over with, got in my truck, drove for 5 hours or whatever, and I'm going to sleep here and then drive the rest of the way to Minnesota tomorrow. So that's where we got the funky lighting. All right, back to the tournament. The tournament, so I was talking about the reasons why the bite was tougher. We covered that. Now we're going to talk about, let's talk about this. My overall feeling of this tournament is, how did I possibly even get a check out of this tournament? And the reason why I say that and ask that is because so much didn't go right. A lot of things didn't go right in this tournament for me. I don't think I made the greatest decisions. I fished with quite a bit of indecisiveness at times, especially on day 3 when the bite was tougher. and it just did not add up. The formula did not add up to making a check. It seemed like, thank goodness on the third day. Thank goodness for the fact that you're guaranteed a check. Because if the full field fished another third day, I certainly would have fell out of the check range and got nothing. So I was a benefactor of making the cut and getting the guaranteed money. So, and maybe that's why I feel that way, is because the first day a lot went wrong. The second day went okay. And then so 2 out of my 3 days, things just were not, I wasn't in the flow. Things were going wrong. Fish were coming, quality fish were getting away, which was to my benefit in the first 2 tournaments. All my quality bites were getting in the boat, which they were tough to come by in those first 2 tournaments. They were kind of stingy, but I was putting them in the boat and got made cuts in both of the first 2 tournaments. This time, that first day, man, I jumped off some quality fish, multiple quality fish. The second day, luckily, I got them in the boat, but I only weighed 5. I only caught, put in the boat, 5 keepers the first day, only 6 the second day, and then the third day just the 2. So I wasn't generating a whole lot of bites, which leads into my third day. I had to make a big decision the third day because, for one, I wasn't generating a whole lot of bites. 2, everywhere I was fishing, other people were rotating on it as well. I mean, constantly. So, with that in my mind, I was just really concerned about, and I felt like the bite was going to be not quite as good today. So I was really concerned about generating bites today, which led to a big decision. Well, first of all, a couple decisions. The first thing I did today is I actually went to a dock where I caught 2 shorts and a keeper in practice. And I had what I think was a short one, boil on it, on this dock, throwing a spinnerbait. I didn't throw a spinnerbait much, but when I threw it at a dock in the morning, it seems like I could get small ones. And that's usually they're undersized. So anyways, on this dock, I had like a fish boil on it, kind of chased it up to the boat. The water was dingy, so I didn't really see the fish until the boil. And then I threw over to the other dock post. Fish bit it. I set the hook, reel him in towards the boat, and he jumps through the spinnerbait. So then suddenly I'm like, well, I better just fish docks so I fished like 20 more docks without a bite. Then I said, okay, enough of that. I'm going to go hit some of the key places. I hit 3 key places from the previous 2 days. The first place was a spot where the only fish on the second day that I lost was a 2-pounder. I lost that fish there, and then on the second day where I caught that 5-pounder was in that same little stretch. So I went there, caught nothing. I caught like a 10-inch bass. They had to be 14 inches. Then I go to my second stretch of rocks. Now I'm fishing rocks with an eco rig. Okay, that's what I'm doing. That's how I caught most of my fish. So, in 3 different worms. A Tricky D, Senko, and a ringworm type worm. So I go to my second stretch where I always at least get 1 going down the stretch. You'd have to put in your time, so it was a time burner, but you could grind out some fish. Well, I got nothing. So now I go to my third spot where I caught 2 on the second day, including 1 quality one, and I hook one there, and it jumps. Well, no, yeah, he kind of jumped or wallowed, and he was still hooked. And then he just started digging down, and he just randomly came unhooked for some reason. So I lost that one. So now I'm 0 for 2 on keeper fish, and I'm just, it's starting to feel a lot like the first day again, which sucks. And I think that cloud of feeling like that kind of lingered over me to my own detriment, and I just couldn't overcome that feeling of, here we go again, like day one, which is bad. It's just bad mental fortitude, I guess. So, which I'm usually pretty good. I'm usually pretty strong that way, but in today's case, maybe I wasn't. I just couldn't get over. I mean, the first day of the tournament was still too fresh, and I have a problem getting over things like that. But anyhow, and it kind of carried over into day three when I went 0 for 2 on my first 2 keepers. So anyways, I ended up fishing those 3 prime areas, and I still had nothing alive well. So at that point, I decided, because I started the day in 50th place, I felt like I could just gamble as much as I wanted. So there was a spot I had in mind where I hadn't been to yet. It was 20 miles away, maybe, 15 miles away, something like that. And I had several quality bites in that area, and I hadn't been to it. I was a little the area is a little suspect to being prone to having, fishing pressure. I might be leaving fishing pressure, only driving, I might be driving 15 to 20 miles just to be into the same amount of fishing pressure. That's what's going through my mind. But I'm like, you know what? What's the difference if I'm having to deal with fishing pressure there or having to deal with it here? At least if I go there, maybe there's a chance maybe there's just one boat rotating on that stuff, or maybe there's no boats. Who knows? So I'm like, all right, I'll just go to this other place. I don't have much to lose. So I go there, and sure enough, there are tournament boats there. I mean, there's high school. Well, there's that other tournament which was a high school tournament going on, and there was our tournament. I mean, so there were multiple boats in that area, and the bite was tough. Still, nothing changed. The bite, those fish that were so easy to come by and practice in there were not easy at all. I ended up catching 2 in there. I ended up hooking a third one. Never saw it. He came off. I reeled him about 15 feet towards the boat. He was kind of coming at me. So I don't have a good judgment on the size or even if it was a keeper. But it was a third bite. So I ended up, and those were the 2 fish I weighed. I spent multiple hours in that area thinking they'll turn on. They never did turn on for me in there. So, and then eventually I left with about an hour to go out of there, and just tinkered around and just trying to just stumble into something new, and I didn't. So I weighed those 2 fish for 313, finished 48th place. And it was a tournament where I threw the Nico rig a lot. I tried to generate bites with moving baits throughout practice and in the tournament. I did get some spinner, like I said, I got some spinnerbait bites off of docks, especially in the morning periods, but they tended to be undersized fish. I also generated some strikes on chatterbaits up shallow in the backs of some areas. And those fish were keepers, and some decent ones, but they were far and few to come by in practice, so I kind of gave up on that pattern. Because it would be like one fish here, one fish there kind of a thing. And I couldn't pull into one area and do it. I'd have to fish this whole area, maybe get a bite, maybe not with that chatterbait. Then I'd have to go find another area like it and maybe get a bite or maybe not get a bite in that area on the chatterbait. And I just didn't feel good about fishing that way, especially, I don't know, after fishing pressure wore on these areas. I mean, if I was only getting one bite after, 3 days of practice and 2 days of the tournament, or 3 days, at least after 3 days of the practice, I just don't see how those types of areas could hold up that well. So could be wrong. Who knows? So, anyways, um, man, I'm tired. Long day. Did I mention I'm 15th in the points? I don't know if I mentioned that. This is my second take on this video. The first one got cut. I mean, the first one, the camera shut off, and I decided, well, I'll just start from the beginning rather than restart it and paste two of them together. So what else do I got to say? We talked about the Nico rig. We talked about the lake itself. It's a cool lake. It's multiple basins. There's some really heavy muddy water. The clearest water you're going to find is maybe a 2.5 foot water clarity. The heavy fishing pressure was in the clear water areas. I don't know if that's because guys just felt comfortable there, or if it actually meant there were more fish in those areas. I really don't know. But not all the fish live in those two parts of the lake, because the lake's massive and fish have to live other places and spawn in other places and live in other places, guaranteed. All right, so what else do we got to say? The lake's got rocks. I mean, that's what I was fishing, rocks. And that's what a lot of guys are fishing, rocks. And a lot of it was just visible shoreline rocks. If I saw a shoreline with rocks on it, I'd go over there and I'd throw my bait up in 10 inches of water and fish it down to about 4 feet, and then I'd recast. A lot of the bites came right up there in 1.5 foot of water. Maybe on this last day, maybe a lot of those fish pulled back a little bit. It could be, I don't know. But it seems like the numbers weren't quite there up in that really skinny water. So, if I go back, if I go back under these same conditions, same time of year, if I go back, I'd probably check out a lot of the parts of the lake with the heavier mud and see what I could do there. I did spend day 3 doing that of practice, because the first 2 days I fished the clear water arms, and then the last day I ran around and fished mud. I caught 2 fish that third day. A lot of the day was spent running around. Didn't put in as much time into actual angling as I did the first 2 days, but I caught 2, and one of the fish that I caught wasn't even in the mud. There was one little pocket I found, maybe about 20 acres in size, that had a little bit clear water, and that's where I caught one of my fish. That's that third day of practice. So, but there were massive sections of this lake that had very little pressure at all, and if a guy could figure out how to catch them in those areas, then you have them by yourself, and you will more than likely be able to carry yourself forward through a 3-day tournament instead of running out of fish, like I felt like was the case with me. Because when I found those fish in those clear areas in practice, I mean, you just get multiple point bites, no problem, just bing, bing, bing on that Nico rig. But as the tournament wore on, it just got harder and harder, because if one guy would go down the stretch, he might catch one, and then another guy comes in, he might catch one. Then I come through, I might get one. Well, pretty soon there ain't nothing left. You got to hope more fish move in, and certainly by the third day, it seemed like not many new fish were moving into these places. So, what else is there to say? Windy weather out there. There was some bad wind in days 2 and 3. I'm thankful that there was talk of cancellation of day 2. I'm very thankful that they didn't. I don't think there was a need for it. There was one bad area, and that just happened to be right outside of takeoff. But, once you got out of that area to where you wanted to be, you could fish, you could angle, you weren't being beat up by the waves. It was just getting back to the weigh-in area, takeoff area. That was, you did have to navigate some some nice heavy wave, white capping, nice big waves. So, oh, that's never fun doing that when you're pressed for time. That's for sure. All right, well, oh man, sorry. I'm gonna go to bed now. Over.